So all those bad things y'all are saying about me, go ahead and say them now. Oh, anyway, so again, so tonight we have a speaker all the way from Richmond talking about the business of photography. Mary Fisk-Taylor has been a member of the Professional Photographers of America since 1999. And along with her business partner, Jamie Hayes, they operate a high-end wedding and portrait business in Richmond, Virginia. Hayes and Fisk, The Art of Photography, is a home-based studio located in almost 1 acre of beautiful gardens. They've successfully created one of the most sought-after portrait and wedding studios in the area. Mary was named Photographer of the Year in 2007 and has won Best Wedding Album of the Year in Virginia several times. At a national level, she's had her albums in the top 5, and she's won numerous Best in Show awards, Kodak Gallery Awards, Fuji Masterpiece Awards, Lone Collection Prints and Albums. Mary is also the recipient of the prestigious Virginia Award, which honors photographers for their commitment and dedication to their state association and the business of professional photography. Tonight, Mary Fisk-Taylor.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, guys, this is good. So we have a hybrid method here, right? We're got some people in person and people logging in. So that's fantastic. I was asking, I'm used to speaking to people that are either members of my state affiliate or of the Professional Photographers of America. And I'm very, for 20 years, have taught business. So I photograph people. I photograph people with credit cards or checks that give me money to take pictures. It's a job for me. It's how I have raised a family and keep food on the table and the lights on. So I very much come from photography as a business. So I will apologize ahead of time. And I was telling somebody earlier today, I'm a little bit nervous about talking to you guys because I have a feeling that many of you all are in this because you love the art and the creativity of photography. And I do as well. But number one for me is making money because it's my job, right? I wish I could see faces, but maybe you can put in the chat. Are any of you all members of either the Virginia PPA or the Professional Photographers of America?
Yeah, we do have several members of the club that are members.
Awesome. Well, I am president of PPA this year. All right, good job, John. I'm glad you're a member. I think was that Sam that raised her hand? She's a member. So I'm PPA president this year. So it's interesting you guys reached out. I've been traveling all year long. I think I've taught at over 25 affiliates across the country and actually beyond. And it's been really exciting. So I am going to talk to you all a little bit about PPA. But please ask questions. If you need to put them in the chat, if then somebody could let me know if there's a question, because it's hard for me to go back and forth. So
I have that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to share my screen here. Give me 1 second. Oh, if you would let me share my screen.
Is that, let's see
there
here.
We go. You did it.
Very
Thank
good.
you so much. All right. And let me start this. Okay. All right, guys. And again, please ask questions. It'll make it a lot more fun for all of us in this world of this virtual world. It's kind of hard. And kudos to you guys on the image comps. I'm also an affiliate juror for PPA. I have been for 17 years. And I love image competition. I know for a fact it's made me a better photographer. So being a part of those monthly or yearly or biannually competitions, it just raises the level of our work. And I think it can be terrifying, but it's a lot of fun. So yes, PPA is something that I do want to chat about. It'd be nice if I started at the beginning and not the end. Let's see, Mary, you can do this. All right. So I'm Mary Fisk-Taylor. I'm a Virginian. I actually have lived in Richmond my whole life, except for when I was in college, where I lived in Charlottesville for my undergrad and grad school. I accidentally ended up in photography. Again, I am a business person. I got my MBA 3,000 years ago, it feels like, and love business and marketing and all that great stuff. But I fell into this business and never looked back. So it's super exciting. two organizations I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about PPA, but VPPA, this is our Virginia group. So our Virginia group actually has districts all around the state. Several times a year we get together. As a matter of fact, in February, our association will be getting together in Newport News, Virginia. We have 4 full days of image competition, which actually Virginia's image competition is amazing. It lasts, like I said, for 2 days. We have 500 to 600 entries. There's awards and prizes and all kinds of cool stuff. And then we'll have 3 days of education. I happen to handle all the education for Virginia. So I personally think we have some amazing speakers coming in that will cover everything from portraiture to fine art, to headshot photography and beyond. So a lot of someone that's going to talk about fine art painting and everything else. So if you're interested, go to vppa.org. Or at the end, I'll give you my email address, and please feel free to reach out to me. Also, there's 4 districts. The Northern District, which is obviously in where you guys are, they meet about once a month and have different speakers and conversations and have online chat as well. So it's a great group. I can tell you, I joined VPPA, 23 years ago and never looked back as well. It's been definitely something that's helped my career in photography. So PPA is, I sit on that national board, and let's talk about what PPA actually is. So we're a nonprofit organization that are in the business of delivering trusted resources to photographers. I'm proud to say that for the first time in the history of PPA, which we're 153 years old, that we have over 32,000 members across the country and some other across the United States and other countries. We work really hard to invest all of our money back in. And as someone who sits in that boardroom, I can promise you that PPA is absolutely committed to making sure that everyone is a member. We've worked really, really hard to make sure that our education platform and all of our events have a wide range. So we're not just all portrait or wedding photographers. We have a lot of commercial, corporate, content, landscape, wildlife, you name it. We try to hit all the marks. So again, we've been around for a while, since 1868. It's kind of a cool thing. As a matter of fact, if you go to the National Portrait Gallery in DC, right outside, there's this huge statue, and that original logo, the National Photographic Association logo, is on that because PPA donated that to the National Portrait Gallery over 150 years ago. So it's kind of a cool thing. These are all benefits that are included as a PPA member. The number one reason people join is the insurance. We have amazing insurance for our photographers as far as for your gear. And I am a money person, so believe me, I've checked it out locally. I could not touch for what I pay in my membership to PPA. I 100% can tell you that the insurance alone covers it. For under $350 a year, I have an insurance policy that for $50 will repair my gear if I drop it or break it, or for $250 replace it brand new. So the insurance alone, but we also work really hard on contract and copyright assistance, malpractice protection, ongoing education, and professional development. And again, it'll cost you more not to join than to join with all the benefits that we offer. We have a See the Difference campaign, which you can check out online. Year-round savings, we partnered with everyone from Apple to Budget Rental Car, Delta Airlines, lots of lots of camera vendors, professional labs, frame companies, album companies, you name it. And let me talk a little bit more about some of the things PPA offers. This is that photo care. So every single member gets a $15,000 equipment insurance policy, and that's included in your membership. So that comes with your membership. The only thing you have to do is opt in. So, meaning if you are already, so you said you're members, make sure you go to your My PPA account online, which is at ppa.com, and make sure you have opted in. Federal regulations will not let us give you the insurance. You have to check the box that says, yes, you want it. But we pay the premium, and you have the deductible, which I said is as low as $50 to $250. There's other options like PhotoCare Plus, liability drone insurance, and every member qualifies for the indemnification trust, which protects you. Back in my day, it protected me because some of you guys might relate. We would photograph a wedding or we'd photograph it and we'd put our film in a bag and we would send it off to our lab. And goodness forbid something happens to that film, we were protected. Well, nowadays it helps you with data loss. What we see mostly now is somebody's RAID unit or USB or something goes down due to a storm and unfortunately wasn't backed up. You're protected because of the indemnification trust. We have the copyright. I can tell you that we are constantly testifying to Congress. I've personally testified to Congress, the Senate, and the House, and Congress combined about the fact that us as small mom and pop businesses need copyright protection. I'm not, Amazon. I'm not uh, Sony record label. I'm just a small little business selling my work, and I have no protection. So we got a big part of this bill passed through to December last year, and we're working really hard to get some more things going through. So we're getting closer, but we have a long way to go to protect our rights as creatives and artists. These are all contracts and model releases and different things that are completely you can completely customize them and they're downloadable. Our education platform, in my opinion, is bar none. We have hundreds and hundreds of videos from people, like I said, everything from commercial and portrait photography, landscape, high school seniors, headshots, weddings, as well as wildlife or how to use Painter or Photoshop, all the stuff that we use as professionals today. We offer a lot of workshops during the year. We do a lot of hard work on something called Bridging the Gap, because as someone who's in the photography business, one of the things that's really hard for us to do is bridge that gap between us as a professional and the consumer. Let's face it, every single person nowadays has a camera, right? Everybody has a phone, you have a camera. So we need to bridge that gap and we need to stand out and make people see the difference and make sure we get what we call butts in the seat or clients in the door and our calendar filled. We have something called certification, which is a program that helps you go through. I mean, the person who does my nails, cuts my hair, plumbers, welders, all go through basic certification. It's just like a driver's license to drive a car. And we think that as professional photographers, there should be certification for us. I love our certification process because, again, it's just something else that makes me a better photographer. And it's something that I have over maybe the next girl or guy that doesn't. It's just something that I use for marketing purposes. And again, I wish our entire industry required certification to do what we do. We have a merit degree program where you can earn lots of awards, trophies, and medals. All right. I don't know if you guys know this, but Imaging USA is our national convention, which happens every January. It'll be January 16th through 18th. And just so happens this year's, guys, it's right in your backyard. It's going to be at the National Harbor at the Gaylord, which many of you guys probably are very familiar with this area. We usually have anywhere from 8 to 12,000 people, and we will have days full, chock full of programs, education, parties, you name it. I think that it's $99 and that's an all access pass that gets you into all of the programs, the parties, the trade show, which is I mean, I love I love the trade show. That alone is worth the price of admission to go in and see all the vendors and all the new technology. Get your hands on new cameras and different things like that. And again, it'll be right there at the Gaylord. I know the Gaylord is 98% sold out, but you guys are so close, you might even be able to pop in just for a day or two. But I'd love to see you guys there. Again, I think it's a great time. I haven't missed one in 23 years and really looking forward to this year because last year, for the first time, we were virtual due to the pandemic, as you all understand. And we're really looking forward to being together. And it's the first time we've ever been in the DC area. So I'm excited for people to see our home base. I mean, even though I'm down in Richmond, I work in DC and up in Northern Virginia a lot. So I'm excited for people to come and see our great state and our great area. And I'd love for you guys to join us. So I want to talk about any questions about PPA or VPPA. Nope.
Nothing yet in chat.
Okay. All right. So I
Well,
want to,
well,
you go ahead.
I'm going to throw one out there.
Please, I love questions.
Do I have to have a photography business to join PPA?
Great question. No, you don't. So if you're not right now, if so, I will tell you guys that I do not have the data on this, so shame on me. But if I were to have to guess, if somebody said you have to give me a number, I would almost think that better than 50%, probably a lot better than 50% of our membership are part-time photographers and or hobbyists that love gear, they love the education, they love the insurance that our membership gives them, they love the community of other photographers that they can go on trips with or go out and do meet and greets with or different things like that. So I would guess at this point with PPA that better than half of our membership are not a full-time photographer like me. And as a matter of fact, I would also say that probably better than half of our group are not portrait and wedding photographers anymore. We have seen such a rise in content and product photographers, commercial photographers, and hobbyists and or landscape, wildlife. I was telling them earlier, I was in South Africa for almost a month, a March of 2020 before the world felt like fell apart. I came home to no toilet paper and I'm like, what in the world's going on? I'd been in South Africa in the bush for like 3 weeks and had no idea because we just were out of touch. So we have lots of photographers that are out there doing that type of work. And it was one of my first times doing it and I loved every minute of it. So I know I'm going to lean in really heavy on the portrait and the business piece, but trust me, our membership is incredibly diverse and I'm just one part of that whole pie.
What other question?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to break the ice here, folks. Feel
I
free
know.
to jump in with your own. So if I join PPA,
Mhm.
does that automatically link me with the BPPA or vice versa? If I
That's
join
a really great
BPPA,
question. Yeah. So it's like church and state. It's very separate. So yes, there would be two separate. It's two separate memberships and they are separate. So our Virginia group, it's smaller, it's much more about fellowship and togetherness because it's going to connect you with people. Northern is obviously our biggest district because it's the biggest area. We have Tidewater, Capital, which is the Richmond area, and then Blue Ridge, which is Roanoke, Lynchburg, that area. So
reactions. It's
okay. So somebody's not listening to me. Yeah, so they're completely separate. You would need two different memberships and to choose. If you were to say, Mary, I can do one or the other. I can tell you both of them offer payments. So a lot of our members break their membership into payments because it just helps with cash flow. But beyond that, because of the insurance and all the benefits of PPA, I say, ooh, I would join PPA first. But if you are someone that would love to get out every month and being around other professional photographers and have access to hands-on learning with a really tight-knit group, I will tell you Virginia is amazing. We're one of the strongest affiliates in the US, which is crazy because we're not a big state like Florida or Texas or California, but our group is so amazing and we're the second oldest affiliate in the country, and the group of people that puts together our image competition and all this stuff are fantastic volunteers. You also can just look into it and you can go to a Northern District meeting. You can go to 2 meetings free without even joining. So maybe check it out and just go and visit and see if you like it or not. So that's also an option, but they are separate.
very good. Thanks.
You got it. I want to talk to you. I'm a huge reader. I'm an always learning kind of girl. I mentioned I did, I went to college and I have my undergrad and I got 2 master's degrees, and then I've worked and I've gone through certifications and earned all the degrees in my industry that PPA offers. But I'm a constant learner. I love this book called Mindset, and I'm just sharing this with you guys because even if this is something that's not just about photography at all, as a matter of fact, it has nothing to do with photography. This book was actually written by Dr. Dweck for principals and educators. Some of you all may have read it, but it talks about mindset and how important it is. And as I share with you guys today about the business of photography, or when you're out the next time and someone's talking to you about, using how they use how they use a light meter or how they use a tripod or how, they like to expose their work versus how you expose your work, or a new Photoshop technique. Sometimes we find ourselves just crossing our arms and kind of side eyeing and shaking our head like, okay, whatever, because we know it all, right? We just have this fixed mindset. So, what mindset has done, and what I constantly go back to, and why I keep reading this book, is because I want to always stay in that growth mindset. And a growth mindset believes that, fail fast, fail forward, right? That a failure is an opportunity to learn. You don't have to always look at it as that it's just a terrible thing. Feedback is great. It's not always negative. So if you're someone who likes to read or likes to listen to a book, check that out. I can tell you it's been a really great book for me as a small business owner through the years. And I think that it's just super inspirational. If you do own a small business, or if you're thinking about a small business, I highly recommend this book. As a matter of fact, Mike Michalowicz will be one of our GAP keynote speakers at Imaging in January. I am a huge fan of this man. He's written several books, but Profit First, as for a small business, in my opinion, should be the small business person's Bible. In my experience through the years, most photographers end up, well, first of all, 8 out of 10 small businesses fail due to lack of profitability. That's just a fact. That's from the Harvard Business Review, not my opinion. It's a fact. We work so hard. We give everything we have because we're giving all of our emotional, all of our IQ and our EQ, we're giving them all of our intelligence, time, treasure. We're creating beautiful work for them, whether it's you're photographing beautiful wall art, or you're photographing the family for wall art, or their wedding, whatever it is. We work so hard, and we do a couple things. We tend to not pay ourselves what we deserve. We undervalue ourselves and what we should pay, what we should price ourselves at, and we don't take profit. So Profit First just kind of goes through the motions talking about profit first. This is a very, very, very small diagram, but it essentially talks about using your money that you have coming in, distributing it according to very set um, percentages, which you can look this up online. There's a lot of little calculators and different things. These are all your percentages, and things are going to just change depending on the type of business you have. However, this book was such a game changer. My business partner and I have operated a 7-figure studio for a long time. But until we actually implemented Profit First, that was the day that we really got control and were intentional about our spending. And at the end of the year, when we sat down with our financial advisor, when I looked at that column that was called profit, I knew where it was. I spent way too many years blowing through that profit and not knowing, because you know what we do as photographers? We go to that trade show and we're like, yeah, I really want that new mirrorless body. Oh, I really need that telephoto or macro lens. Oh, I really want this new background or this, or I want to take this trip. Whatever it is, we spend money, and what we're doing is spending our profit, which is fine, but it helps you intentionally spend the profit, and it checks the health of the patient on a monthly basis. And what I mean by that is, in that operating expense column, if you say for every dollar, I'm going to put 65 cents in there, because that should cover my cost of goods sold, cover my general expenses, payroll, whatever it is. I'm going to put that in there. And all of a sudden, at the end of the month, there's more bills than money. Then you don't have a healthy patient. So as a business, you need to say, okay, I need to raise my prices. I need to cut my costs. I need to do something different. And a lot of us as small business owners are just constantly filling the tub with water and watching it drain out, and then running around and trying to fill it back up. This gives you an ease of mind. And like I said, it helps you intentionally run your business. It also focuses in on the fact that you need to pay yourself and become legal as far as insurance, taxes, and all of the proper paperwork. I know this is boring, especially to you super creatives out there, but when and if you decide to take your beautiful art and make it a online business, or you want to sell it, or you want to do all these things, then you want to make sure you do it the right way. Nobody wants to do things the wrong way. So super important. Okay. And this was the third book. If you are in business where you need to market, Like I said, I did get my MBA when, which at this point is as relative as the Minutemen because it was that long ago I got it. But as someone who does all the marketing for my business, this book was a huge game changer for me. By the way, I did go through certification for both Profit First and Story Brand to be certified to teach these. I teach full day long classes on these subjects because they're so involved. But if you're looking for a book and looking for something that I think is some of the best marketing advice that I've seen in a long time, I highly recommend checking out Story Brand by Donald Miller. All right. I'm going to talk to you guys about my top 5 business advice, and hopefully you guys will have some questions. And if you don't, that's totally fine as well. First, I want to give all glory and gratitude to my beautiful family. This is always a really funny joke when I talk about it in my PPA circles because my business partner, Jamie Hayes, and I have been partners in our studio for 26 years. And because we travel and teach and all over the country, people usually think he's either my husband or my brother. But I actually have a real husband and 2 amazing kids, and they support me. They support this business, and this is us in Hawaii. This is what I took my profit check and did 2 years ago. We went on a really beautiful trip, the whole family, to Hawaii for 2 weeks because I decided to take my profit, and that's what I did with it. But I have 2 great kids who both have graduated from University of Tennessee, go Vols. One both in supply chain management degrees. One has a global master's degree in supply chain, and my son has just finished his bachelor's. And trust me, guys, I've told them they need to get on the supply chain issues. We are sick and tired of it. I need them to put those degrees to work. So we'll see how they do going forward. I work with my mom and my sister, and I actually have a volume studio with them where we photograph about 17 schools, indoor sports, and about 150 seniors. My mom and sister run that studio with one other employee. And so we also have that business. All right. So my best advice if you want to own a creative business is this: do what you do best. And I know that many of you guys probably love touching every piece of your art. I totally understand that. I'm going to talk about it from my point of view because, like I said, everything I do revolves around these 3 questions. My job is not to be a photographer. It's not to be a salesperson, a marketer, a retoucher. My job is to make sure that I've visioned a company that is profitable and sustainable and satisfying. And what that means for me is that I don't need to touch every single thing. Outsourcing for me is a big part of the reason our business is profitable, sustainable, and successful. And what I mean by that is if I can not print my own work, which takes hours and trial and error and all this stuff because of what I do and the volume that I'm working with, because of that, I use a professional lab. I outsource my artwork or retouching because I don't have time. And for $2.50, I can send a family of 5 off to retouch up. They take care of it for me. And then I have it so that I can work on relationships or partnerships in my community or getting out and being a part of something philanthropic that's going to bring my business a spotlight. I'm a small home business. It's Jamie's home, not mine, but we're a small home business. So it's really much more important for me to be out doing those things and not sitting behind a computer retouching faces or taking out, stray hair, etc. I also want to give a little plug for this company. This is an Irish company called 3XM Solution. I bring this in because a lot of my landscape and wildlife photographers, bird photographers, they love their products. It's an Irish company, but I promise you, I get my products faster from them than I do from the West Coast. They sell these gorgeous folio boxes. Maybe you guys are familiar with them. If you can scan that QR code, and if you use it, you'll get a credit. Somebody told me the other day it was more than $10. But I don't get paid by any of these companies, by the way. They're just, I love them and use them, and they've made me so much money. I like to share. But a lot of my landscape photographers, they love to do these because these boxes will hold your work. It'll hold 20, 10, 15, or 20 of your images beautifully matted. These window boxes look like a gorgeous frame. If you're in a position where you need to put your work in other small businesses, these are gorgeous. For example, as a wedding photographer, I have a couple studios I consult with, and they will put these boxes in the bridal salon, and they can change them out, or they can sit down and show, or the florist, or they can show them different things. So these are gorgeous products. Check them out if you're so inclined. All right. My next piece of advice is this. If you are going to run a photography business, now I'm going to be talking about portraiture, but I don't care what it is. If you are doing stock photography, if you are selling fine art, good, better, best. So, for example, if I were a fine art photographer, what I would offer would be the OMG or the Whopper, which would be the original piece, hand printed, one of a kind, framed, and it's this. And then, of course, your next level is going to be maybe some limited edition lithographs, right? Some limited edition prints. And then the next level might be small matted 5x7, 8x10 copies of that image. And then maybe your basic would be postcards, um, that put cards or those type calendars, those type of things. So I'm going to talk to you about it as a portrait photographer, but it works in any type of business. Good, better, best. It's like if you think about Old Navy, you have Old Navy, you have Gap, you have Banana Republic, right? You think of different designers, Polo, Ralph Lauren, they have Polo, which is their bottom. They moved to Ralph Lauren, then they have the purple label. So a lot of businesses have this. A lot of creatives have this. Peter Lick, if you guys are familiar with Peter Lick, Pete, and I know Pete pretty well. He has this in his shop. You go to his galleries, and oh my gosh, these huge, gorgeous metal or acrylic images. But then he also sells the other stuff. So this is how I think a business can be successful. For me, my product lines are as follows. For me, a basic product line for me would be a paper portrait, meaning I don't want to sell these. So this is so low on my priority list. It's not even funny. Also, just FYI, I very rarely sell digital files. I sell art. I sell mostly paintings, which I'll get to in a second. But this for me would be basic. I very rarely talk about paper portraits. I only offer portraits on paper up to 14 inches. And I always show them in groupings. So if I photograph this family, they bought a large wall art piece, but they loved these images. So yeah, of course I sell them, but it's just not something I spend a lot of time talking about. Moving into canvas. So for me, canvas is good. This is going to be that, okay, we're starting to move up the ladder here. So for me, a canvas portrait tends to be something in the studio or whatever, but I use very traditional canvas. I'm not a fan of gallery wraps, and it's not because there's anything wrong with them. I tend to stay away from most or any products that are readily available in the marketplace. I know I cannot compete in the digital market. I cannot compete in the small print market. Those are readily available to everyone who has fingers and access to the internet. So for me, I try to offer products that they can't get elsewhere. Now, granted, they can't get my image on them, but hopefully you see what I'm saying. So I use the very old school way of canvas, which means we print it on e-surface paper. The emulsion is stripped. It's heat pressed into artist cotton canvas, and then it's heat pressed into masonite. The reason I do that is it's sturdy, it looks different, it feels different, and in our humidity, it doesn't peel. When I move into better, that I start working with art, digital art, and then I'm going to work into paintings. Digital art for me is painter. That's all it is, guys. It's painter. Many of you all probably do this, and I am not very good at it, but I offer painter portraits because it's a great sellable product for me, right? It's something that I can sell them above a canvas, right? Basic, good, better. It's better than a canvas, but it's not the best. I love painting black and white. So if you are a portrait photographer, by adding digital painting because I don't sell a lot of black and white oil paintings, which is what I'm getting ready to get to, but I do sell a lot of digital black and whites. So just out of the gate, by adding that digital art line to my product lines, it actually allowed me to add $1,000 to every order, if that makes sense. So having these levels makes a difference. This is what we are known for in our market. So in Richmond, this is primarily what we sell because it's really all I show. So when we're out in the community, if I'm donating to an auction, if I'm creating a magazine or a lookbook or whatever, I'm talking about oil portraits. For me, an oil portrait is that canvas portrait, just like I talked about earlier. And then it has a tooth spray on it. And then my business partner actually hand paints on each portrait. So it's got acrylic or brush oil. It's got oil and acrylic paint all through it. I have 3 different levels, good, better, best, because this is a very personal product and some people like very light oils and some people like it heavier. Hopefully on your screen, you can see the difference here. The image camera left here or on the screen, the camera left, that's just a portrait straight out of, that's a portrait that has basic retouching. The one on the right has been painted. So we put it on an easel and we take the brush and we actually paint it. You're going to bring out more saturation. You can add more depth and color. You can see kind of her camera right behind her in that Liriope. We've added a little bit of more like flower or foliage, kind of clean things up. That's just what we do. There's just a basic retouch portrait. This is after it's been painted. So this is something not readily available in the marketplace. It's not a lot. I don't think that people can actually buy a Groupon for this level of work and things like that. And it's something that we sell a lot of. Now, we have structured a business in Richmond where we only take so many commissions a year. The reason is that as digital cameras grew and as things changed through the years, because we've been in business for a while, we started out working with our Veronicas and our Mamias, that now it didn't make sense for us to try to be everything. So us laser focusing in on high-end commission work was a great fit. A, because we're in Richmond, Virginia, and it's a very sellable product there. And B, because very few people know or understand or are going to take the time to do it. It's a very marketable thing. I can tell you Northern Virginia is a very great place to do it. One of my early on mentors, Jeff Lubin, who had a studio in the Tyson's Corner area and in Alexandria at one time, that's how he made a living for many, many years. And it's something that people love, you know what I mean? And so I highly recommend looking into it. If this is something you love, please reach out and ask me about it. I am happy to share, but I know it's not for everybody. However, imagine this. What if you photograph fine art, still lifes, landscapes, what if you added to your landscapes? You could have the straight print, or you could have a digital art print, or maybe you start painting on the portraits. This is ways that you can take your beautiful work and become more and more and more profitable with it. Now, again, it's not everybody's style, but maybe if you love black and white, your levels of your good, better, best are your levels of the way it's printed, machine printing versus fine art printing on hamamul paper that you do yourself. So there's all ways to incorporate this into what you do, but having that good, better, best is really important. As Americans, we buy in the middle. It's how and where we buy. That's the safe space. Most people buy a medium Coke. We go in, if we buy a car, we want the bells, but we don't need all the whistles, right? It's just how we buy as Americans. So I've put what I want my average sale to be in the middle, which I know what I need my average sale to be profitable in my business. And that's how I've positioned my products. Because trust me, a lot of people will come in and buy a basic or a second Renaissance type oil, but very few people are coming in for this product. These masterpiece oils are actually a mixed media, which means I digitally paint them and Jamie brush oil paints them, but they start at $10,000. My average client is not coming in and saying, oh, no problem, $10,000. Do I have people that do it? Absolutely. Why? Because it's on my price list. There's always someone that'll buy the most maxed out car on the parking in the parking lot, or will buy the, the house with every single upgrade or whatever. So there's always that customer up in Northern Virginia, way more than there are in Richmond, by the way. So there's always those people. Like I closed yesterday, it was a $43,000 order yesterday. That's not normal for me, but it happens because people will come in, and if they buy one or two of these pieces, it adds up. But because I want my middle to be kind of in that between the classic and the Renaissance, my average stays there because of the way I've positioned my products. Again, your products may be very different, but making sure you have those levels makes a huge difference. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you're here.
So, I'm really intrigued by that painting option that you sell. Now, I'm curious. You said your partner does this it's himself. Now, he's actually painting over the image.
Yeah. Yeah. So we get
some of us aren't that artistic, but it's an awesome
So the
option.
good news is you don't have to. And guys, full disclosure, for 20 years, we outsourced that painting. Why? Because we were so busy in our studio that we didn't have the time. Before we really fine-tuned and laser focused into commissions only, we were doing quick takes and bunny rabbits and all the stuff we do, right? We decided several years ago to cut that out because we realized that we were working really hard, and we didn't have to work that hard. We just needed less sessions with a higher price tag. Jamie's always wanted to learn how to paint, but we have sold paintings for 26 years. We outsource that to local artists. There's a place called Mid-South Color Lab, which is a lab in Cleveland, Tennessee. They have artists on staff that'll paint for you. There's resources like there's a lot. There's if you're really interested, I can give you a list of people that do these paintings. I know of somebody in Montana, somebody in North Carolina, that's all they do is paint for other people. So this is definitely a product that's out there and available. You do not have to do it yourself. You absolutely can outsource that.
That's good to know. Because like I said, I mean, it's a really cool idea.
We outsourced it for almost 20 years.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Profitably, I might add, or else you wouldn't have kept doing it.
100%. Because that's why my prices are where they are, right? But nowadays, we keep it in house, but I pay Jamie for every portrait he paints. I pay myself for every portrait I digitally paint. I never thought in a million years, y'all, I'd be doing painter. I honestly don't even know how I ended up in photography, but I did. And then I got intrigued by painter, and it's something I learned. And there's a lot of people out there that do this. It's not something you have to do yourself. But if you like it and you think your clientele will buy it, then find someone to do it for you. But if you're interested in it, then you can learn. And there's a lot of people out there teaching it too. So there's some good options.
So here's another one.
Bring it on.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people looking at this stuff and going, that's really nice, but how in the world would my stuff sell for that much money?
Correct. Yeah, so we're going to go back to mindset, which is I should keep popping it back in here, guys. I get it. Trust me. I went to one of my first programs in this industry, and I heard this stuff, and I'm like, I sat there, crossed my arms, rolled my eyes, and like, whatever. I think one of our biggest issues as creatives and as small business owners is exactly that. Yeah, I think it works for them or whatever. It does. But you know why? It's because we just decided we were worth it. Not one of you on this call, and you all might be able to photograph circles around me, but not one of you can create what I create. Why? Because it's very personal. The way I see it, my composition, the way I light it, the way I crop it, the way I work. Not one of you can do what I do. All I have to do is find this many people that like the way I do it and like me enough to invest in what I do, because no one else can do it. There's not a lot of jobs in this world that can say that. There are some, obviously, anyone in the creative field. But I wish as photographers, and I'm getting on my soapbox here, but I wish as photographers we could just step back and have the faith and see what it is that others see. And I hope every single one of y'all has an entire stand of cheerleaders telling you how awesome you are and how beautiful your work is. If you could take in just a part of that and go, you know what? Dang it, that's right. I am, and no one else can do it. Then maybe next time you'll charge what you need to charge. And the next time they say, oh, well, how much do I owe you? You don't do this like this shuffle, like, well, I mean, maybe, or discount or whatever. And trust me, let me tell you this, since I'm on the soapbox, your family aren't your clients. Your friends are not your clients. Okay. For me, I decided a very long time ago, being a native Richmonder, being someone who's been super involved in my schools and my kids' schools, it's either free or it's full price. Meaning, I am not going to do this song and dance of my neighbor wants their kid photographed and want a discount. Nope. It's either free or full price. So I need to really like you or it's full price, because I charge what I charge. And you know what? If my neighbor's an attorney or a dentist or, cuts hair or, has a landscape service, I don't go to them and ask for a discount, because they charge what they need to charge because they're a legitimate business. I'm a legitimate business. I charge what I charge because no one else can do it. I have costs that I need to cover, and dang it, I think it's worth it. And it's not because I'm a better photographer than any one of you, by the way. It absolutely isn't. I would venture to guess it's only because I have decided that my job is to be profitable and sustainable and satisfied in the business I work in. I work really hard. Every one of you all probably works so hard. I have a wedding this weekend. It'll be 18 hours of work. No problem. You know why? Because they told me, and this is a rehearsal dinner, a wedding, and a brunch. When they told me what they wanted, when I wrote up the proposal, I didn't shake when I handed that over. I didn't, get even bat an eye, because if that's what they want from me, to give them 100% of what I can do for them for that amount of time, this is what I charge. And I don't have any problem at all looking in them in the eye and saying, this is what it's going to be. It's mindset. It just is absolute mindset. If one of you all left this call tonight, if you're still there, I know you're here. I got one person on for sure. If you leave this with just thinking, you know what, dang it, that's where I'm going to look into that mindset thing, because I'm going to be open-minded to the fact that I deserve to be profitable. I deserve to get paid for the work I create. Now, I also am incredibly philanthropic. We donate and give in our community and beyond. Didn't last year, but I try to do at least one mission trip a year. I do a lot of work with Operation Smile. I love giving because I can do this. I love giving it. My children's school, where I went to a small parochial school, my kids went there. I love to be able to go into that school and gift them things or donate to their events or their auctions. I love being able to do that, but I only can do that because I run a profitable and sustainable business. You can't, you can't, you can't get water from an empty basin. So yeah, that's my soapbox on that. Keep hearing that. And that's not me. I'm not trying to be full of myself or catty. I don't share that pricing because I'm very proud of it, but I'm not trying to show off. I'm just telling you, if a girl from, Virginia that had no training in photography, by the way, who grew up literally with a single mom, because my dad died when I was really young. My sister and I, we grew up hoping we could keep the lights on that month. If I can look you in the eye and charge what I charge and do what I do, you can do it too. I promise you can. You just have to believe in it. And you're your worst critic and you're your biggest barrier. And that's been my experience over the past several decades. Good. All right. Couple other things I highly recommend, and this is more portrait work. Well, no, it's both, but a lot of portrait work. But if you're creating a still life, I remember my mom several years ago hired an artist to come in and create a special art piece for their piano room. And he came in and he came to their home and he sketched and he looked at the light and he did all these things and he created this artwork for them. Just like if you were to hire a landscape architect or a wedding planner, they look at what you want and they come back with their vision. Same thing for what we do. So for example, we invite people to come in for a visit or a chat. Ever since COVID, we also have a really cool virtual system where we'll hop on a Zoom call and do this. But the bottom line is if you call me and say, hey, Mary, I want to get a picture. So Jen, this client, I want to get a portrait of the two kids. I want to do something for the family room. Awesome, Jen. That's fantastic. Now tell me why we're doing this now. Well, we're doing this now because um, my oldest, his teeth haven't, those weird 7-year-old teeth haven't come falling out, or his 5-year-old teeth still there. And I'd love to do it now before the teeth changes. Oh, you're right. That's such a milestone because once those teeth fall out, they get those weird big 7, 8-year-old teeth. And any parents out there can hopefully appreciate this. This is a great time to do it. Hey, do me a favor. Can you just send me some snapshots of any spaces in your home where you're considering hanging this portrait or already displaying artwork? Now, what have I done? Well, first of all, I'm going to get some really important information. But second of all, what I've done here is I have just come out of the gate on the phone, assuming they're buying something to hang on their wall. I'm not asking them about files. I'm not talking about 8x10s. I'm only, so hang on the wall. That's it. Now, if at this point she says, oh, whoa, I just was thinking about something for the office, or we don't hang portraits on the wall, no problem. That's totally fine. And I will photograph those. Don't get me wrong. But I have it very much set up in my studio that if that's where the stop is, then I am open for them at Thursday at 11 or next Tuesday at 1. What does that mean? I'm not coming in on the weekend. I'm not coming in at night. I'm not going to take time away from my family for that. If they say, yeah, no problem, let me get the images over. So this is the image Jen sent. And she sent me images of what the clothing was and all this stuff, no problem. Now, when I looked at this, what I saw was a great blank canvas. Awesome. I also see a very much of a lack of a color palette in the space. So I wasn't super concerned about time of year or what the I was like, okay, this is great. This is a blank canvas. And the most important piece for me is I love to look at how the light tracks in the space. Why? Because when I photograph it, I'm going to light it exactly the same way. So I know that light tracks in camera left. So when I photographed these kiddos, I made sure that I photographed them, and I use additive light outdoors. I am not a natural light photographer. Very rarely to ever do I shoot natural light. I love lights. I will add all of them when I can, but I always work with an off-camera strobe. I'm a pro photo user. I'm on their team, but I will always have a light. So I'm going to light, but if I was a natural light photographer, I'm going to find that natural light and I'm going to use that to mimic the lighting in the room. I also saw that this space would not only accommodate one portrait, but if I photographed correctly, that I could potentially sell her 3 portraits or 4 portraits or whatever it is. It also told me that if she only went for one, that I was looking for a strong square or horizontal format. Sometimes you get these homes that have these huge, tall, 2-story, above the fireplace or foyers or whatever. This was a really great fit for horizontal. So everything I photographed of the kiddos together was going to make a really nice square or horizontal image. I have all this information before I've ever picked up the camera. And I am talking to her about this before I've ever picked up the camera. Why? Because I want her and I to be on the same page. Because if I'm going to come in Thursday at 6 or on Saturday, I want to know that my sale is going to be average or better. I hope that makes sense. Here's another example. This space here, one of the kiddos, yep, we're going to get that first kiddo in, and then we're going to get the second kiddo in when they're the same age. I'm a big fan of milestone maps. And when people come in, wherever they come in and where their family is, I'll say, okay, these are milestones that we feel like an heirloom portrait should not be missed. 18 months to 2 years old is one of my very, very favorites. And that's that's probably one of our biggest sweet spots in Richmond. And we will usually photograph the first child and then the next one, and if there's more, and so on and so on. So in this space, I knew that this is what we would be doing, okay? Same thing here. This is a client. This is a great example. Now, this is the client that I just closed that $43,000 sale with on Tuesday, I think. What day is it? Thursday, Tuesday. When she came in, she got a gift certificate from one of our partnership businesses. It was a little clothing store in Richmond, and she did not want to. She did not want to participate in the consultation. She was busy, busy, busy. No problem. Thursday at 11 or next Tuesday at 2. Right? I'm not giving her these sweet spots. She's going to have to come in when I'm not busy and it's not outside of hours. Okay. So for me, those are down times. Those are times that I'm not normally booked. She did. We photographed the kids inside because I'm also not going to go outdoors or go on location unless they're investing in it. She wanted to use this. The cool thing is she didn't realize she was going to fall in love with me and what we do. And this portrait came in, and this is a 30, this is actually it's a 40 by 50, I think. This is a bigger, this is a wide angle lens, oil that she ended up buying off a free 5x7 gift card, by the way. And she was like, oh, we need to do more stuff. One of the images she sent, and then she said, I need to send you more spaces. I have this weird space in my bedroom. Now, above her bed is now, that's one of my portraits, but before that was empty. And it is a weird space because it's kind of narrow and it's long. This is their downstairs bedroom. This is the stairs that go to their gym, and there's his and her bathrooms. These people, I don't know what they do, but they're not a photographer. Trust me. They do something way more important than I do. But this space, I said, okay, cool. You know what we're going to do? Let's wait. The kids, we just photographed the girls. Let's wait until the oldest is this age or the youngest is this age. Let's do it in the spring, outdoors on your property, because they have this lake in their property. And we will photograph a beautiful panoramic family portrait that we can put in that space. And so 2.5 years later, I pick up the phone and I'm like, okay, Ashley, it's time to get that family portrait scheduled. So in February, I'm calling her because I know in April, I want to be out there photographing their next family portrait. So I use these images to plant seeds for the next session, because hopefully these are not people coming in for a one-off. Hopefully they're going to keep coming in. I'm going to keep able to keep a relationship and keep building so that I'm their visual historian. So these images I will use and I will store with their file so that I know that it's time for the next one. The thing is that she had a bonus kid a few years later. So we went back in and redid all of these portraits, and we just went in. Her kids are now, her oldest is now 9. So that shows you how long I've been photographing them. And this last sale was the family again, and we included grandparents and did some other stuff. So this last sale was a little bit different, and it's going in their vacation home because they just bought a big home in Denver. Okay. So the consultations are important. We're sitting there and we're talking about the session, and I am talking to them about it as if they are definitely going to hire me and they're definitely going to put something on the wall. Do they always do it? Absolutely not. That's okay. I would rather know at this point than to do this. This might sound familiar. Sure, let me get you scheduled coming in. I'll come in on Sunday right after church. I'll come in Saturday. I don't need to go to my son's soccer game. Why am I saying this, guys? It's because I've done all these things. And I'll photograph you. And then I photograph them every which way to Sunday, indoors, outdoors, change clothes, bring the dog, no problem. And then I'll sit down to show them what I've done, and I hope they love it. And they're overwhelmed. I'm letting them drive the bus, and I have no control over the sale, and it just never really worked. So for me, I just decided that this is a better fit for me. I would rather know up front what we're doing, where we're going to hang it. If you're looking at some small prints and it's just going to be a couple $100 sale, or are we looking at something that's going to be an installment and an investment in your family's heritage? This is the questions I want to know up front, because I will take care of it either way, but I want to know, because then you're going to work around my schedule depending on where we are. So hopefully that makes sense. The next piece is in-person sales or photographing for the sale. A lot of that's already been handled with the consultation, but hopefully if you're selling your artwork, specifically portrait photographers, you are not putting them online or just having a fee and just giving them a bunch of digital files. Hopefully you're trying to take some control over that and working with them and having in-person or virtual sales sessions. Definitely with COVID, we got really good at virtual sales. And the funny thing is, if you had asked me several years ago if I could do a Zoom sale as successfully as in person, I would have told you were crazy. And I was absolutely wrong. I've had some amazing sales on Zoom calls because I've just handled it just like I would if we were in person. So, photographing for the sale looks like this for me. When this client called me, this is actually two images. It's kind of hard to tell, but the image of the fireplace there, that's an inset on top of a picture she sent me from an iPhone. She wanted to put something on that wall. This is that wall that goes from like the dining room into her kitchen. That's actually her refrigerator. Those two doors there, that's her refrigerator. So she wanted to put something on that wall. I don't want my work on that wall. I always want my work to be where they see it all the time, where when you walk in the house, you see it. But of course, I can't tell her that. It's her house. So when we're chatting, I'm like, okay, Kathy, I totally get it. Let's talk about this. But let me just ask you a question. You said that this family room is one of your favorite rooms. It's the room you see when you walk in, it's where you all spend a lot of your time. Why wouldn't we maybe design for there? Can you tell me a little bit about that picture or that art above your fireplace? And she said, "Oh my gosh, Mary, I never thought about it. That was a leftover from our old house. And honestly, we stuck it up there and I never even gave it a second thought." I was like, "Well, I have an idea. Why don't we put that on that kitchen wall and then I will design for above the fireplace?" What I did was I put myself in a place where I think they're going to enjoy it way more. And I also know that if we're above that fireplace, I have a potential for a much bigger piece than I would on that kitchen wall. That wall would I could probably maybe a 20 by 24, not quite a 24 by 30, maybe a 20 by 30. I could maybe put there, but above that fireplace, I have a lot more real estate to work with. With that being said, I knew they wanted a portrait of the family looking at the camera. I always ask, are we looking for a record keeping image or are you looking for something more illustrative? I knew they wanted the house in the background. Her and her husband built this house. He's a contractor and she's an architect. This home was something that their dream home that they built. So, of course, my first instinct is to make sure I have a couple options for her of the four of them looking at the camera. And then we have fun. We're going to make sure we photograph dad with the kids, mom with the kids individually, mom and dad playing around, goofing around. There was a whole series. But my first instinct is to always go for exactly what it is they told me they want, which was the four of them looking at the camera with the house in the background. Because after that, if the wheels fell off the session, at least I got that part done. From here on, we're just going to play and have fun. So when she comes in, I happen to use a sales program called Pro Select. That's the sales program that I use, and I use it whether I'm on a Zoom or whether we're in person. But we go through, and when she walks in the door, the first thing she saw is that bottom slide. Do you see what that is? That's me. I took the image that I liked the best. I put a frame around it and I hung it on her wall. So, we all can do that in Photoshop. We can make that happen. So when she came in, that's what I showed her. And what did I say? And there's an author that I love. His name is Phil M. Jones. Phil has spoken at several of our imagings, but he has a book called Exactly What to Say or Exactly How to Sell. The strongest language you can use in the sales room is, if it were me, this is what I would do. These people have hired me, they're paying me, they've paid my creation fee. They must like me enough or like what I do enough. So when I say, if it were me, this was my home and my family, this is what I would do, that just plants the seed. The worst language you can use in the sales room is this: what do you want to do? They don't know what they want to do. They're not a professional photographer. They have no idea. Their experience with top photography is maybe school pictures, dance pictures, and what they're doing on their phone. So when we tell them what we would do, you would be surprised how many times they go, okay, let's do that, which is what she did. Then we can talk about the other stuff and add on other fun things, whether it's small matted and framed accent pieces, image boxes, albums, small prints, whatever. They ended up with a 28 by 40 masterpiece oil, and that was framed and displayed in their home. But again, I believe that if I hadn't had such a great design consultation with them, if I hadn't had the images ahead of time, if we hadn't have sat down and discussed all that, and if I hadn't told them exactly what I would do if I were them, I feel like the outcome would have been different. I also feel like that's what many of us do as small business owners, because we, for some reason, don't feel comfortable taking control of the sale and control of our work. I'm just a couple other quick things. This client, for example, when they moved to Richmond, her kids were that age. So that was our first heirloom portrait. And then we have photographed this family through my heirloom map, or all my little milestones, all the way through until this was the last portrait session we just did, because the youngest just started college. So this is their last family portrait that we just installed. This is a 50 by 70 masterpiece oil in their new home. And it's because I've just called them every time they hit one of those milestones and said, it's time to update your portrait. It's time to do this. It's time to work for this space. They moved, so things have changed for them through the years. But when I saw their new home, I knew that my next piece had to go above their fireplace, because it's so beautiful and it's so big. All right, I'm rounding out. I'm Mary Fisk-Taylor. I have a podcast. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick. So you
Yeah.
mentioned that you use some software to virtually hang your artwork in the home. What was the name of that software?
So I use Pro Select. It's sales software. They actually have a special right now, I think. They'll definitely be at Imaging Pro Select. You guys, I'm going to give you my email address. If there's anything I mentioned and I know I talk fast, so I apologize. But if there's I just, if you had questions, I would definitely love to answer them for you. But if you have questions, definitely feel free to email me. I have a podcast. It's called Get Your Shoot Together with my podcast partner, Kira Derryberry. She's another professional photographer out of the Tallahassee, Florida area. We're both working photographers and we love it and have fun. Here's my email address, mary@maryfisktaylor.com. So please write that down if you think you might have a question. If you don't, and you think, oh my gosh, I just wasted 45 minutes of my life, then you don't have to. But yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything I mentioned, because I'm always happy to share.
Speaking of questions,
Yeah.
we have more. So it's coming from the chat. So
oh, good. They're not all your questions, which I have loved, by the way.
So what has been the biggest shift in your business for you and Jamie that you've had to make over the past 3 years?
3 years. Okay, so it's probably a little more than 3 years, but here's a story. So 5 years ago, it was January 6th. I'll never forget it. And I went to get out of bed. And guys, when I tell you I could not get out of bed, I could not get out of bed. I literally felt like I had on lead shoes. I was depressed. I didn't know I was depressed, but I was depressed. I'm not trying to overshare here. There's a reason. We'd come off one of our best years ever. We'd made more money than I've ever made in my entire life. And things were great, but they were not great. And what I realized was things had to change. So when I talked to you guys about that mindset book and Profit First and Story Brand, that January, those books came into my life, I think for a reason. I'm a big believer in that. And that was when I realized things had to change, because I was really stinking tired of working all hours, anytime anybody was willing to come in and sit in front of my camera, and giving them everything I had, hoping they would love it and buy it. And I was tired of, because, it doesn't end there, right? I'm not just taking the pictures, then I'm doing the processing and the file management, and, oh yeah, I got to clean the bathroom, and sweep the floor, and order the packaging, or what. We're doing everything, right? We're doing it all. And I was exhausted and I was depressed, because I thought, I'm 53 now. So I was 48 years old, and I've got all these degrees, and I work so hard, and I'm exhausted, and I don't even love it anymore. And I think I need to quit. I was on the board of directors. I was on a director to be president, but I was just done. So the changes started there. And what I'm saying is, we really fine-tuned our business to the commissions, meaning we were very strict about, we had to have the consultation. And if we didn't, then that's fine. We can do a signature studio session Tuesday at 11 or next Thursday at 1, meaning if you're not going to invest in me, I'm not going to invest in you. And that's not me being unfair or ugly. I say this sometimes, and I know people are like, oh my God, No, it's just that's fine. If you don't want to at least work with me on this and you just want me to take some nice pictures, I will smile and give you 100% Thursday at 11, just like I will next Sunday at 5:30. But I'm not going to take time away from myself, my family, or something else I need to do in my business to accommodate you. My dentist doesn't do it. My doctor doesn't do it. I mean, professionals don't do that. So that was a huge change. So switching to more of a commission based studio was huge for us. Implementing profit first was huge for us. Told you, I took my family to Hawaii for 2 weeks. We stayed in one of the nicest hotels in Maui. We flew first class. We did it all. The next year with my profit money, I bought a Range Rover. That was huge because I was took control of my business. My business for 20 some almost 20 years had controlled me, and it was a good business. We made money. I was getting a salary. I put my kids through college and private school, but I just was depleted. So the biggest change for me was getting that and becoming intentional with my business. And again, it was moving more to those commissions, and it was moving into profit first, and really deep diving into story brand, which is a whole nother subject. But my marketing changed. And what story brand teaches you is that you have to agitate a problem that your ideal client may not even know they have and tell them how you can solve it. Marketing doesn't matter if it doesn't break through the noise. And so I became very diligent with story branding on my marketing. So those were three huge changes that have happened in the past 5 years that really changed my business. And I tell you guys, I would not be here today in this industry, president of, in my opinion, the best association in our industry, the best in the world, maybe, in my opinion. I would not be here if those things hadn't happened.
Interesting. So you mentioned that you and Jamie outsource a lot of your post processing, and you and what you were just that last answer, you mentioned that you had been doing a lot of post processing. That ties into the next question.
Okay.
On average, how many hours in post do you think you spent for each hour of shooting?
Okay. Okay, so when I photograph a session, I will cull it. And what I mean by culling, I used to say edit, but I can't say that anymore because editing is a different word. I will cull it, meaning I go through what I photograph and I get rid of anything I don't want the client to see. The client comes in and I show them straight out of the camera. I do not touch an image until you buy it. Now, I was a film photographer. I do shoot on a tripod. I do use additive lighting. I do use a light meter. So my stuff out of the camera is pretty spot on. I don't have any problem whatsoever showing you something. Now, are you going to see your flyaway hairs and wrinkles and all that stuff? Yes, you are. But you know what? You also did when I was a film photographer. So I don't touch it. When they come in, I'll sit down and I'll say, okay, guys, I'm so excited. Now listen, these are straight out of the camera. I have not done anything yet. And this is why. We're going to do this together, because it's kind of like salt and pepper. Everybody has a different level of what they like. So I would not even begin to think that I know how to do artwork or retouch these. I want you to tell me the amount you want. And that's how I get away with it. It's not because I'm not trying to be sassy here. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to touch things that people haven't paid me for yet. There's no money in my pocket yet. So they know that and they'll go, yeah, that's good. And because that is true. Some people like a little more, some people like a little less. And that's how I sell it. So I spend maybe 15 minutes culling. And then once they place their order, I will grab the 5 to 20 raw files they told me they want me to order for them. And I will upload them to RetouchUp, who will acquire them. That takes me about 15 minutes. Then I will check those and then re-upload those for retouching. I have very strict instructions and color profiles. And when that comes back, I download those and I will crop them and upload them to my lab. So touching files, and then of course I back them up. I would say I might have an hour in it, hour and a half.
Yeah, so that's today. before you got rich enough to pay an outsourcer. So,
Well, $2.50 is not exactly rich.
oh man, some of us can't make that much money off our photography. I'm
Oh
just
my
kidding. I'm
gosh.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
I know
kidding.
you are.
But it is a good question because a lot, you mentioned before, many of us as hobbyists, we're used to doing everything,
Yes.
and that's probably how most of us would start our own studio, if you will.
Mhm.
So that I think it is a good, fair question, and it is something, because right now, personally, for example, part of the enjoyment is the post processing.
And I know, I hear that.
But if it were my business,
Correct.
would I still enjoy
No,
photography?
that's the difference. And I've been educating in this industry for 20 some years, right? So I know that a lot of hobbyists or people that they're like, but I love it. That's what I love. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But if you were me, who, I take care of about 120 sessions a year, maybe 10 weddings, and we usually have 5 or 6 commercial jobs. That's about my year, right? I don't, and my average client buys about 20 images. Why? Because I sell one of those image boxes off almost every session and it holds 20 images. So I sell about 20 images. I am not going to sit down and retouch 20 images. Like that does not make sense to me when for $2.50 I can do this. Now I also will tell you, when I was a film photographer, did I learn how to negative retouch? No. Right? But I wasn't rolling out that 220 and going in with my pencils and doing negative retouching. So when I switched to digital, it did not make sense to me. So I never learned how to retouch. So even before we did this, we've always outsourced our retouching because it does not make sense to me when I can pay somebody $2, $5 for me to do that versus go out and find my next client.
So you mentioned it takes you 15 minutes to cull. So our next question,
Yeah.
I'm somewhat familiar with this process and quickly going through and say, yep, keep.
Yeah.
No. So anyway, the question is, if it only takes you 15 minutes to cull, really, how many shots have you taken in in an hour session?
So it depends, obviously, right? But if it's a family session, I usually will have maybe anywhere from 72 to 86, under 100. Again, okay, I shot film, right? So in my, back in the day, you'd shoot film, and every time you click the shutter, it was so many cents. You knew to the penny how much that was costing you because you had to buy the film, and then you had to process the film, et cetera, et cetera. So I still am very cognizant of that because even though it's free to keep pushing that button, it's not, because downloading that card and managing all that memory, all those images and all that, the bandwidth in that is just overwhelming to me. So I try to keep it really tight. I get them in a pose, bam, 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 next pose, bam, bam. You know what I mean? I don't need to photograph them 57 ways to Sunday for them to like a picture of them looking at the camera. If I've got it, I got it, move on to the next pose. For me, it's more important to try to have 20 different poses they love than for me to have 50 of the same thing. When they sit down in the sales room, if I want to show them, okay, here's all of you guys, and this is you all at the front door. Here's 5. Which do you like better? Great. Next. I don't need to show them 15 or 20 of the same picture because I think that's exhausting. I think that, them sitting there, it just starts to become overwhelming. But showing them 3 or 5 of it, they're like, oh, yeah, that one by far. Great. Let's move on. Like, for me, that sales process I don't need to give them an overwhelming amount of images. And I find that I do a lot of consulting. So I find that when I go into studios that but no, Mary, and they sit down and they get in the sales room and here's 20 of the same pose. And you can see the client just start going, oh my God, because guess what? Here's the next pose and there's 20 more of that. And it's exhausting. We're the professionals, narrow it down. We know what's good and what's not good. If the exposure's off, if the focus is off, the expressions are bad, move on. You don't need to show them everything, or you don't need to photograph it.
So that ties into the follow-on question, which is,
good.
Well, so you're culling and you mentioned looking for the best shots, and maybe 5 you propose, what's an average keeper ratio for you?
Yeah. So for me, I usually will call out about half. So usually when they sit down, they're looking at anywhere from 40 to 50 images. If it's a family, now if it's a single child, maybe not as many. Obviously, I'm not talking about weddings. High school senior portrait session, that's going to be different, right? Because that does involve lots of outfits and locations. So that may be a little bit different. But for me, I want to sell them 20. So if I have them about 40 to 50 to look at, I usually can sell 20 that they love.
Okay. Well, and these are not questions, but you did get some feedback.
Okay.
Yeah. So you remember that soapbox that you were on a while back?
Yeah.
It came in that section, quote, "Well said. Thank you for that whole speech."
Oh, good. Oh, good. I thought it was going to be.
No, not at
Don't tell me
all.
that.
Not at
Thanks,
all.
guys.
And
Thank you.
more toward the end when you were going through, your techniques for in-person sales and,
Yeah.
and like using the software in the design consultation, quote, "Mary, this was great. Wish I had heard this when I started my business eons ago."
Yeah. Well, the good news is you're still in business and you can change it because it's your business. That's the good news, right? Nothing is set in stone because it's our business and it's nobody else's. So, and you know what? This is some advice that was given to me a long time ago. And y'all, because I was always a member of Virginia and PPA, I have had amazing mentors. And the shoulders of giants have definitely why I'm where I am. I mentioned Jeff Lubin, who's a local Northern Virginia guy, my great friend Ann Monteith in Pennsylvania, like so many amazing mentors. So when we started our business, we started right. We started profitable. When we opened our doors back in 1995, we were charging $125 for an 8x10 then. I'm only charging $250 now. So it's not like I'm just, raising my prices that much. But even if you aren't, you can make gradual increases. And this is some advice I will give you. Sometimes you have to divorce your clients and it's really hard and it really sucks. And I totally get it. But if you want your business, if you are visioning a business that's profitable and sustainable, that might have to happen. And it's just the cost of doing business, quite frankly, unfortunately, or
A
fortunately.
late breaking comment. Many thanks for the informative and inspirational speak.
Good. Oh, I'm so
So,
happy. That's great. That's great,
yeah.
guys. Again, vppa.org. You've got my email address, I hope. PPA, it's ppa.com. I should have put that on there. And again, maybe if you come to Imaging USA, please message me, either message me on Facebook or send me an email that you're there. I'll try to come say hi. I would love it. I would love to think that maybe this will cause you guys to pop over. It's an amazing event. Again, I make no commission off of people signing up. So I just can tell you that I am where I am today because of organizations like VPPA and PPA. I 100% would not be here without the tools and the education, the fellowship, the guidance that I was given. I didn't invent any of this. I had the open mindset to hear it and take it and make it my own. Hopefully something I shared, just one little thing I shared tonight, you'll put your own thumbprint on it and you'll turn it into something that'll make you so happy. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about for me anyway.
Yeah, and another late breaking comment. Thank you, Mary. This has been great, inspirational, and I just have to close on that because I absolutely agree, Mary. This has been a very good discussion. Definitely appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about basically how to run a successful business, and definitely appreciate your tips. And it sounds like we have a live comment in the room.
Oh, great.
Sam?
That's right. There's real people somewhere that I can talk to. In a room together, rather. She's muted.
Oh, here we go. I got it.
Mary, can you hear me? It's Doug Mattice. How are you?
Oh, hey, Doug. I'm great. How are you?
Good. I got a question. So regarding the design consultation, do they come to the studio first for the initial meeting, or do you actually go to their home to
Yeah.
start the initial consultation?
Right. So for me, so the initial consultation obviously starts on the phone call. Then I'm inviting them to the studio, or at this point, because life is busy and things happen. And also I'm so wired right now, inspired by my amazing kiddos, to leave less of a, footprint on this world, in this beautiful earth. I'm encouraging Zoom consults. I am not doing a site visit unless we are in a commission talk, which means they've come in, for example, Ashley's last session, or actually one that I'm working on right now. They called me, they got a gift certificate. We had a chat, we had a Zoom. They actually came into the studio because I wanted to show them all of our different, oil levels of our brush oil portraiture. And then we have set up a site visit. So I will go to their home next Thursday, and I'm going to meet with them and their decorator. So I absolutely will go to their home, but I already know what we're doing. I know that we're well above my average, where my average has changed. My average has gone from $1,200 to $12,000, right? So it changes through the years, but we're talking about a large piece. So I absolutely am going to come in and go to their home, especially if they work with a designer or decorator that needs to have their opinion put into it.
Okay, so if you do go to the home, do you ever bring samples into the home to show what that would look like on their wall as far as particular
No.
size?
No, I would never do that, because no one wants to see somebody else's family hanging on their wall. When they come to my studio, I have a gallery where they can look at my good, better, best, so they can look up, touch it, sniff it, my different levels of oil portraiture. So they see that there. When I go to their home, I'm only talking about their family. We'll go up and look in their closet and talk about clothing. I'll meet the kiddos. I always bring little treats and different things. But no, I do not carry samples around in my car.
Okay, great. And then when does mentioning the dimension come into play? So like if somebody you've not been to their home and they're coming into the studio for consultation and you're showing them different things in the studio, I'm just trying to find out from a designer perspective, like by going to the home, at least you know what wall that they're going to display the portrait on. And then you as the photographer have a good sense of what that investment will be based on a particular size. Let's say a mantle size, 24 by 30 or a 30 by 40, give you an idea. That's the space I can work in. So then I know in my mind what I'm creating for. So do you get them just to take photographs of their wall?
Yeah.
And then they send that to you on the Zoom session?
Yeah, or they email it to me or text it to me. So like I showed you guys that image of Jen's house, right? That was just a snapshot from her phone, right? So when she sent that to me, and I should have included this part, I didn't want to deep dive into this, but because I use Pro Select, I also ask them, once we pick the actual space, so we decided on that space. She may have sent me 5 different options. That's what we designed for. I'll say, would you do me a favor when you go home, just put a piece of notebook paper on the wall and stand back and take a picture. I can take that, and I know I can put it in Pro Select, and I can tell exactly how wide that wall is. And that's the dimensions I use. Again, I'm using that language when we're in the consultation. If it were me, if this were my mantle, if this were my sofa, if this were my family room, this is the size I would go with. You told me you like the Renaissance finish, so let's talk about that. I'll also, and this is a little bit of a, higher level, sales class, but I also, after that consultation, will write up a proposal and I email it to them, thank them for the visit, and I will let them know they can go ahead and prepay. So I put the proposal out, guys. I've not even picked up my camera. I will tell you that about 30% of the time they just pay in full, especially this time of year, because a lot of my clients are rushing right now because they need to spend money this time of year. I wish I had that problem. I do not. But they will maybe prepay or pay half or wait until after the session. But I go ahead and send them a proposal of what we are going to do, what we've discussed before I ever show up to photograph them.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much.
And that's only for commissions, Doug, right? So
Right.
if we're coming in for an artist project or a holiday quick take, not the same at all, right? Very different concepts. But, we've gone from being 1% commission to 99% the rest to now we're probably 60% commission, 40% the rest. So I've cut out a lot of that stuff that really was the extra. It's a lot harder for me. It's a lot harder to get a $2,000 or $3,000 sale than it is for me to get a $22,000 sale.
Speaking of first world problems.
I know. And again, I used to not tell figure, but I hope you guys hear that it's only because I promise if I can do it, and I'm not a great photographer, by the way, I am a marginal adequate photographer, and I'm not putting myself down. I'm just saying, I know people who are amazing artists and photographers who could not, they could not sell, ice to an Eskimo. I don't even know if that's the right thing to say. What they just literally, and they're so talented. I want to shake them because they're so incredibly talented and could just do leaps and bounds, heads and shoulders above me, but they just don't have the confidence to do it. And it's not because I'm
Mindset.
great. It's mindset. It's all mindset. I know how to properly pose in light, and I can get it in focus, and some people like me. That's what I got. That's what I got to give. The reason I work on a tripod, for me, interaction and talking to the client and having that contact is so important. And you don't get that when you have a camera in your face. But that's something that I hear a lot of people say. I can't tell you guys how many times I'll have a new family come in and they'll go, it has been so refreshing to see your face and see your expressions. The last people I don't even know what they look like. They had a camera in their face the whole time. So, little things like that make us really stand out. Being able to work in a studio and not just outdoors in natural light. Refine that craft, hone that craft, because not a lot of people these days can even do it,
We have one last question. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I was going to ask that. Go ahead.
Yeah. One person here was asking, do you have a team of like makeup artists or people that you just kind of tell your client to go see, or do you bring them in for them?
Yeah, so most of our clients are really leaning into a more natural look. I don't do a lot of boudoir or things like that. However, we do have 3 or 4 stylists in our area that we absolutely recommend. I do enough weddings that I know enough of those people. So if they're interested in that, I absolutely will refer them.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's it on our end. Does anybody have any questions? No, we're good.
All right, last call for questions online. Well, again, Mary, fantastic presentation, lots of really fantastic information. And I do expect that you'll get an email or two, if for no other reason than to give us that book list again. So
No problem. I have a great booklet. If you love to read like me, I have an entire book list I will send you and bore you with. Trust me.
great. Well, this has been phenomenal. Once again, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and close out this session, and we'll talk to everybody else in the club 2 weeks from tonight. Doors and windows.
Thank
Y'all
you.
have fun. Happy holidays, guys.
Mary.
Thank you
You
so
too.
much.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.